How do people know that you follow Jesus? How did Jesus say everyone would know that you're a disciple? Jesus said to love each other. Good morning and welcome to the 755 Live. For about 5 minutes, you'll hear all about an easy-to-remember soundbite version of what Jesus said. The point is to help you experience life to the fullest the Jesus way. Today's Jesus said comes from John chapter 13, verses 34 through 35. I'll be reading from the New English Translation. Starting in 34, it says, I give you a new commandment, to love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. Everyone will know by this that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another. Jesus says this is a new command. The command to love one another, though, is mentioned in the New Testament at least 16 times. So it's a new command in the sense that he's saying this is something that has to be added to the 10 Commandments, the thing that everybody knew. But it seems so simple. But Jesus said this is how everyone's going to know that you're my disciple, as I have loved you. So you think, how did Jesus love people? How did he love Peter? How did he love Thomas? How did he even love Judas? In ways that I don't know that I could love somebody the same way. I think about that a lot of when Jesus, first got introduced to Judas. He knew who Judas was, but he still loved him. And he's saying by this kind of love, this love that goes beyond, condemnation or judgment, this is how people are going to know that you love each other. But you would think that Jesus commanded us to do something else, that he told us to judge, or that he told us to compare one another in the way that we live our lives now. Most Christians, unfortunately, and I'll say this about myself, that a lot of times we're the subject of our stories. We're the only person that matters in our lives. And it's always I, how they treated me, what they did to me, how they did that. It's always us. We forget that we're supposed to care about other people more than ourselves. We're supposed to put others before ourselves. That's what Jesus did. But, instead we divide into groups of different beliefs and, saying that everyone else is wrong if they don't agree with me 100%. We call our enemies names and we point out how stupid everyone else is. But do we ever think, maybe that's why the world thinks we don't have anything to offer. Maybe that's why it's so hard to get people to even want to talk about Jesus or even hear anything about the good news, is because they're like, how are you any different? If we aren't known for our love, if we aren't known by our love one for another, how can we expect people outside of Christianity to do that? To see that. And that's a sad thing. It seems that in churches, unfortunately, or even like in church circles, a lot of the time, that's where the least love is. There might be that face of love, of, being kind or putting on a good face. But unfortunately, there's also a lot of gossip. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of strife. And that's not what Jesus said to do. But he did predict what might happen. In Matthew chapter 24, verses 10 through 14, he says, Then many will be led into sin, and they will betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will appear and deceive many. And because lawlessness will increase so much, the love of many will grow cold. But the person who endures to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached throughout the whole inhabited earth as a testimony to all nations. And then the end will come. We can't claim to have the good news about the kingdom if we don't show the basic example Jesus gave us as proof that we are his disciples. And it's almost scary sometimes to think about like what Jesus said would happen, but he said it. He says the love of many will grow cold, and sometimes it seems like that might be where we are, but that doesn't mean we can't change. That doesn't mean that we can't do what Jesus asked us to do. He told us to love each other. He told us to be that example of love, not just in the kingdom of God, but to people outside. No one's going to care how much you know until they know how much you care. Our Pastor Aubrey says this a lot, and this is something that, seems almost, just like a cutesy thing to say, but it's real. People don't care. You could tell them the whole Bible, and they might not ever hear anything if they don't ever see the love that you're supposed to be showing. And this is what Jesus said. He said to love each other. So again, we read this from John chapter 13, verses 34 through 35. So how can you put that into action today? How can you love somebody more than you love yourself? How can you stop if you're showing someone, judgment or condemnation or showing them something other than love? How can you change that? Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, I hope you like, comment, share. If you want to read along with us, you can follow us. You can follow together with us through the Bible at bible.today.church. I really appreciate you. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope this time together has helped you live life to the fullest the Jesus way. And remember, we end everything by saying to follow Jesus today and love first. Thank you.